rope making tools. What do you need? Some of you might be brand new to this and you might want to know, hey, I need to start making some of my own ropes for my own team or personal stuff for show skiing. So this will give you an idea of what kind of tools to get started with. None of this should be all that expensive. Also, this section in this video is not for everybody. There are a lot of people that might need to know basics on ropes and trunks and rigging, but you're not going to actually make your own stuff. If you or your team is planning on buying all of your ropes pre-made, just completely skip this video. So let's jump right in. First thing you need are rope fids. You can go and buy what are called splicing fids, and they are made commercially, especially for the marine industry. So you can go to marine supply houses and you can buy them, but they're actually quite expensive. My suggestion is save that hassle and go to your local Walmart or crafting store and get knitting needles. So this is not how they come. So here's an example. These are a couple examples of different ones. They don't come like this. They normally come and they're about 18 inches or so long and obviously made for knitting, and they come in all different sizes. The narrower diameter ones, like this, come in metal. I think this is aluminum. Means they're really sturdy and you'll have them forever. The larger diameter ones, from what I found, only come in plastic. So most of what you're going to need are the small ones that are metal. And I would recommend you get a couple different sizes. I'm not going to tell you exactly what size to get because it varies by rope diameter that you have. But get a couple of different diameters in the metal ones. And then take a hacksaw and chop off however much you want. Now you're going to notice that I make mine different length because it depends on what type of rope I'm making. So cut them to whatever length you want. Some people do like them longer to work with, but I will say you're going to need some shorter ones at times when you're trying to perhaps redo an old rope and somebody didn't leave you enough excess rope. You need a smaller one to work with. So take these things, take a hacksaw to them, angle cut. I hope this can be seen on the camera. There's an angle cut there. Helps make it easier to feed the rope in. Angle cut, and then to keep from cutting yourself and also fraying up your ropes, you need to take a metal file. So there is a little bit of work involved in this, and you want to file this smooth, and also if you can, take a small file and try to get the insides just a little bit right where you cut it so it's not sharp. And these become your fids that you use. If you are going to do trunk line ropes or heavy duty leader lines where the rope diameter is going to be thicker, that's where you need to get the plastic ones, the larger diameter ones. And again, get a couple different sizes. These are not expensive at all. Get a couple of them. You notice I don't have these angle cut. You have to be gentle. I did cut these with a hacksaw, but with a really fine tooth hacksaw. The rougher cut or rougher, the more coarse bladed hacksaws will tend to crack these. And just from personal experience, I also found that if I try to angle cut them, they also crack. So just be a little gentle with these when you're cutting these down. You shouldn't need to file these at all because they're plastic, and you should be just fine. But these are for doing things like if I'm doing 3/8 rope or larger, certainly 1/2 inch. That's what we're getting into, 1/2 inch, 9/16 inch, leader lines, trunk lines, and certainly the boat harness lines too. In fact, for boat harnesses, I don't even have something thick enough. I do those a little bit different. So, definitely need a variety of fid lengths and types and sizes, so you need some fids. Cutting tool. Everybody has their different stuff. Some people like using and doing heat cutting. And you actually make rope cutters that can blade cut with heat, and then they melt it right away. I'm not a fan personally, but it's to each his own. For years, I have used a multi-cut tool. Bunch of different companies make these. You can get these from almost any hand tool manufacturer. They have insanely surgically sharp blades in them, and you're going to need it. Cutting regular poly type rope, these things last a long time. If you were cutting just poly rope, I probably won't go through a blade in a season. It'll probably be 2 seasons before that blade dulls. However, as you get into the more exotic materials, the ones used for leader lines and trunk lines, we're talking Amsteel blue, plasma, that kind of stuff. though that rope is so dense, it dulls these things quickly, especially plasma line. I maybe get about 12 cuts out of a blade, and the blade is dull already. So just be aware. And these are really, really durable blades. I mean, they're made to cut leather and tile and stuff like that, but they will dull from the denser types of rope. So, good cutting tool. Other things I recommend that you might need, but totally optional. Electrical tape. You never know when you're going to need to cinch something down. You might have an end that's fraying or something like that. Electrical tape is great. In a pinch, if you don't have a fid along, let's say you're at a ski site or something, you need to repair a rope quickly and you don't have a fid, I have at times been able to take electrical tape. There's a little technique to it, but if you wrap it really, really tight for about 2 to 3 inches and then off the end and make a little point with the electrical tape, you can sometimes get away without needing a fid in a pinch. It's not as easy, but you can splice the rope then with just this. So that's something to have. Obviously a good tape measure. You want one that's locking for when you're taking measurements on stuff. And then the last thing is for when you have to retie ropes. And I'd love to say you're never going to have to do it, but you have to do that more than almost making new ropes. So every new rope you make, it's going to have to be retied as it stretches to get it perfect with the rest of the stuff on your team. And then old ropes that you need to pull knots out from and try to get them loosened without destroying them. Vice grips are the way to go. Not pliers and not needle nose pliers. They don't seem to put enough pressure on. And these vice grips, I had to go and order these. And don't get cheap knockoff ones either. I have one of those and they tend to, the metal flakes and stuff like that, and then it starts cutting through your ropes and everything. These do have teeth. They will abrade the rope a little bit, but that's kind of the goal. You need friction to pull those ropes out. So these are actual name brand vice grips, and if you notice, they're not the really thick plier-like vice grips. They actually are somewhat pointed, almost like a needle nose pliers. And so I have 2 different ones, and these things are kind of the magic tools for getting out old rope knots that have been in for a few years if you need to readjust the length of rope. So that's kind of a recommendation on some tools, very basic tools, that you need to do rope making for show skiing.